Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're turning our attention now to the state of the economy. We're joined this morning by Prince David Iweta, who is the Chairman, National Economic Recovery Committee. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
What kind of role can this committee of yours play to get our economy back on track?
Well, I think practically speaking, it is obvious that over the years, the government of Nigeria has been managing the economy, and the economy from time to time had gone to where it is. And in the wisdom of the organized private sector, there is a need to collaborate with government efforts, because all over the world, the private sector is the largest employer of labor. And the issue today is job creation. And all that the government has been singing over the years is job creation, job creation. And what had that given to us in pulling the economy out of, the problem we have today? Now, if the private sector is the driver of every ideal economy, and in Nigeria, the government do not consider the private sector occupying that front seat. Therefore, it has helped to reduce or collapse the economy. But the economy needs to be opened up to create enough economic space for players to move in. But because of the contraction of the economy as it is, people are now having no other business to go into politics. So politics and crime has now become the order of the day. But if we now say the economy had been collapsed, do we now leave it to government? The private sector would be the one that would carry the greatest pinch. For as it is today, there is no one private sector operator can boast that they can have access to any fund from a local bank and succeed in manufacturing or agricultural activity. But the direction to drive or pull the economy out of recession is agro-agric business. And agro-agric business has been practiced over the years in Nigeria with about 70% man labor. And the world had moved from that point. And therefore, we need to focus on agriculture. I totally disagree with government's slogan of diversifying the economy. The economy had long time been diversified. The slogan says, we want to diversify what? We have, over the years, been doing agriculture. But it has not been given the adequate attention it requires to create the economic role it's supposed to be creating in the economy.
Some say we're in this because government is the biggest spender. So if they don't spend, you have some sort of situation, an economic squeeze.
Excellent. Now, if the government has been spending the billions of naira they've been declaring year on year, and they are hitting the target and achieving the result for which it is meant, the road Abuja to Benin will not be the way it is.
Yeah, but how?
The road Lagos to Benin will not be the way it is.
Let me put this in so you can respond also. How do you suggest we change that so that the private sector can be in the driving seat?
Excellent. Now, today, I will tell you that the federal government has no business in fixing all federal roads. Those roads needed to be commercialized 100%. And that will bring in, that will inject sufficient funds. And the so-called economic waste that we all experience on our major roads would disappear. I tell you, if you go to countries that are operating effectively like China, roads that links like from here to Calabar is commercialized. The private investors are giving that road on a concession for like 25, 50 years. And if the road is not well maintained, they are told because they are commercialized. And if you can imagine the volume of traffic on our roads, those investors will pick their money under 10 years. the expected period for return on investment for such kind of project is a minimum of 15 years.
Do you want to give us an example of a PPP that has succeeded that you think we can borrow from?
A PPP, like I'm saying,
in this country?
In this country, I haven't seen any. I have not seen any in Nigeria. Yeah. Okay, because from inception, the preparation of the policy that will lead to that kind of concession is faulty from the beginning. And so there is no way when the holder of that PPP program goes into implementation, because about 50% of what is supposed to earn by way of profit had been earlier given to government officials who were part of the negotiation.
Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean when you say it has been faulted from inception?
Yes.
Can you break it down further?
For example, two of you are asked to bid to manage the airport. And the man from government end that is bringing the opportunity to you would have made the cost so high that he needed some to be loaded in his pocket. And by the time you go in, the first loan you are taking to implement that project is first to pay the cost that is unmerited to a negotiator from the side of government.
So how do we get beyond that point? Because we're now talking about moving out of, this is what has been, but we need to get out of that situation so that we can begin to see PPPs that work. How do we set documents that will not put us in that kind of situation?
Excellent. Now, if I tell you, for every kilometer of railway line, internationally, it is tagged $1 million.
To build?
Yes. A double gauge. And then to generate...
Do you factor in the terrain as well?
Yeah, of course. All of that has been taken into consideration, whether it is swampy area, whether it's a solid area, whether it is right of way and all of that. And then internationally, to produce 1 megawatt of power is $1 million. And so when you come into a climb like Nigeria, and you are being made to pay $2 million because you are in concession with that, nobody would come in. As of today, the power sector is not being totally privatized. The energy sector is not being totally commercialized.
You want a total privatization?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes.
Which is the transmission. FG should hands up that.
Now, I tell you, sir, in other climes, like in the United States, for example, it is a duty of a local government chairman, in that case called mayor, that issue permits or licenses for power generation, not federal government. There is so much in the hands of federal government, so they are carrying an overload that is not necessary for them to carry.
But that's because they are running a different power system where you have captured power. They're not running a national grid.
No, excuse me, sir. Now, if you create a regional power block, just like the concession, the disco, and the gencos, all right? The discos have regions. If you now create a regional transmission system, that this enclave is now coming up with generating capacity that will meet the need of those people. Yes, but if you generate power and you put it in an omnibus national grid, it will disappear.
What stops the states at the moment from generating about 1 megawatt of electricity?
Excellent. The states are so poor as we speak. They do not have capacity to borrow. All of that has been evidenced by federal government giving them bailout through CBN to pay salaries. And some states had come out to say their predecessors in office had loaded so much load on their shoulders that they are not able to pay. Therefore, they have structured their loans over some period so that as the fund coming from the federal allocation or their IGRO, a reasonable proportion goes to pay those loans to Nigerian commercial.